Welcome to the World Gaming Trade Show. I am your host of the In-Game Boss Program podcast. When Jeremy met Nam, all the above. I am Jeremy Evans, a.k.a. your retro activist, a.k.a. your in-game boss. And the second chair, or my other co-host, all the way out in Indiana, once again with me, the man himself from Game Addict Podcast, Brendan Stone.
What's up, buddy? How you doing? It has been a minute since we had a chance to sit down and talk. We took a month off.
Yes.
Things got a little heavy in my world. It's looking up now. So we are back here to talk about some games. And we actually have our first ever themed episode. We had an accidental themed episode with some steampunk stuff.
Yeah.
And we didn't mean that. It was just kind of weird that we both picked the same thing or same genre. This time, we came in with a game plan.
Yes, and just for you guys, you probably heard a little bit of like a little teaser at the very beginning of this episode to kind of give you a setup for this. But we are going to a galaxy far, far away to talk about a couple of these games that, once again, as our theme of our show, is we pick games that kind of fell off the map for a little bit, or you haven't heard from them for a while. They haven't been another entry in them, and we want to bring them back and put them out on display and talk about who is the right developers to make these games. Who's the right one to bring it back up? Games that, you know, Brendan enjoy, I enjoy, or even games that, like, everybody enjoy, but they're like, what happened to it? Such games like Comic Zone, Ultra Beast, Legend of Dragoon, Snatcher, Soul Blazer, Metal Storm, Musashi, you know, Wing Commando, you know, the Mark Hamill game. So I am excited again to get back into this. We have even more lineup for you. Remember, this is a monthly show, so it gives us time to, you know, get this set up, because one of the things that we do for each other is we don't tell each other which developers we want to touch this game. We keep that as a secret. And sometimes we get a match, sometimes we don't. But we like to sit there and discuss each other's ideas and see what can we do to make it better, what it can improve on, you know. I'm very excited for this. So, Star Wars is our theme, and we picked 3 games, but we're not going to tell you them all at once. We got to go, you know, we got to go down the list, and you'll be surprised on some of them. One of the picks is probably be a question mark for you. Like, out of all the ones, this is the one you want to go for? Because we want the challenge. We want to see if we could make it better, because we believe there is some potential. Brendan, anything you want to add before we start this war?
No, dude, there's a lot of Star Wars games out there. There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of bad ones. You're going to ask, why didn't we pick this one? Why didn't we pick that one? That don't mean that we're not going to get back to talking more Star Wars games down the line. You know, this is just the ones we're starting off with, because at least one of these is a nice little hidden gem that not a lot of people know about. One of them is a massive game that came out on a massive console back in the 90s. And another one is, why did we even pick this? You know what? We're just getting out of the way. I think that's the best way you can put it.
Yeah, because like Star Wars has been a big template in the video game history, even way back on the NES. And, you know, with Lucasfilms, you know, and creating LucasArts, making these games all the way around. And, you know, sadly, they're kind of like, I don't know, would you say they're kind of like, you know, shimmering out a little bit under the Disney name? And so, but, you know, as we speak, EA still owns the right to it. But we're hoping, you know, in the future, when the license is up for grabs from the studio, we hope that maybe these studios will take a chance on these games that we picked and see what they would do with it. So let's get on with our first game on the display. The first game we're going to talk about was a game on the Xbox only, because it was during the time when the Xbox first came out. Xbox had some Star Wars games on their repertoire. And this one here was kind of a diamond in the rough, I would say. And I mean rough, I mean a strong rough. Like when I was watching videos for this and just kind of hearing reviews of people's thoughts about it, like, I got it. I get why it was a little rough, but there was a lot of good ideas in there. There was a lot of great ideas in there. And this game is Republic Commando. Okay? And it's basically, I want to say, now, Brendan, I'm pretty sure you are probably a more Star Wars fan than I am. I like Star Wars, but I'm on the basic surface. I'm not really deep in there, so I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm a know-it-all. But I believe this is set during the Clone Wars.
Yeah. You play as a clone trooper, and you command a squad of like 3. 3 other squad mates. And this is a tactical shooter. So unlike, some of the big run and gun first person shooters, they want you to think, they want you to issue commands. Like you had to use your buttons and menus and it's like, go here, do this, do that. And so it gave you a little bit more thought than just rushing into a room and shooting everybody.
Yeah. So what year? I'm trying to see what year this game came out. Oh, it was 2005. Yeah. So it was 2005. And it is. Did you say it was first person? Yes. It is like a kind of a first person kind of view. So I'll go first and tell you who I think should make this game. So I thought really hard about this, and I wanted to look at a studio that did the most with 4-player co-op, because I think that's what the game is missing. It needs a 4-player co-op style where you're your own person and all that stuff. So I picked Ubisoft under Ubisoft Montreal. Now, those are the people that brought you Rainbow Six, For Honor, all that stuff. But Rainbow Six, I think Republic Commando should be it should be more like a Rainbow Six, where it should be more of a tactical kind of shooter game where you and your guys are stationed in different spots, working your way up, infiltrating the base, getting information, hacking stuff, and working together to take down, different droids, robots, whatever it is in this game. And like I said, I want 4 players, but we can still have the 1 player, but you got to do better on your AI communication, because that's one of the flaws of the Commando game was that the AIs were not quite listening what they're being told to do. So you got to work on that. But I definitely want a different loadout for each character. You should be able to customize the loadout that you want your characters, what weapons is best to bring in, because they said one of the things in the game is it takes a lot of bullets to kill certain beings, and it'd be kind of cool for different loadouts that certain person
have a heavy.
Yes, someone can be heavy to help you take care of that. Everybody has a particular job, and I think that's a good way to. On top of that, I think what's really important is if you did your loadout and you still don't think you have the right weapons for it, I think you should be able just to pick up a gun that's on the ground after you kill somebody and use that to help kill like a certain enemy. And it's only limited for that gun. So once it runs out of juice, it's done. You can't gain more. It's there just temporary, and then you go back to your main weapon. And also too, I almost would kind of like the missions to be a little bit more in depth, instead of just go here, bomb, blow up something like this. I think I would like a little variety, like a rescue mission. Sure. Even a mission where mission fell and you gotta make your way out. Maybe like you set a bomb and you gotta work your way out of there. Like something more. Your life is on the line as you do these tactical things. And I want communication talk among the characters. Like if you're playing with AI, I want to hear if homie's getting shot, I want to hear him yell he's getting shot, or help me out. I need help over here. And I also want conversation from the enemies. I want to hear the enemies talking about circle around them. Really feel like the war is going on, and so there's a lot of conversation going. So, Brandon, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, dude, that sounds amazing, and I almost went with a Rainbow Six type.
Oh, okay.
As well, I looked at it because because when you're thinking about tactical shooters, you're thinking about a game like Rainbow Six. That's definitely one of the more popular ones. And no, I think it would work. And I love that 4-player co-op aspect, because I think that's something that the original was missing. The ability to have them either be AI or have them be co-op. And of course, like, as you said, have the characters be more responsive on the AI. My pick is a little bit different.
Okay.
But not because they haven't done a tactical shooter. They actually do have a tactical shooter series under their belt. But oddly enough, I want to say, are they owned by Ubisoft or no? No? They've worked with Ubisoft. They have to.
Okay.
Maybe. Gearbox.
Okay.
Okay. So Gearbox, more recently, they've done the Borderlands series.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In which I think that's with 2K. They've done Duke Nukem. They did Half-Life.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I thought about when I was thinking, because it came out around the same time, was Brothers in Arms.
Yup, Brothers in Arms. Yup.
Yeah. And I thought of that, and I'm like, you know what? It's been a long time since they've done a game in that series. They've moved away from it. I think this game would be an awesome kind of return to form, but also use what they've learned through the years of developing kind of a looter shooter-esque type game with Borderlands. So but dial it back a little bit, because one thing that I thought about, because you talked about the AI thing and having more responsive teammates, how cool would it be to be able to issue commands via a headset?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Certain games did that back. Actually, Rainbow Six Vegas had that idea. They did that for one of their games on Xbox Live. I remember that.
So the only other time that I ever experienced that was playing Mass Effect 3.
That's right. I forgot they did that too.
So if you had the Kinect plugged in, you could yell out commands to your squad, and they would do moves.
That's right.
You could actually yell out commands to switch weapons, and you could yell shotgun. He'd pull out a shotgun. You could yell concussion shot, and if Garrus was in your party and had his concussion, like boom, as long as you were aiming where you wanted him to go, he would do it. And I only tried it out once, because I was playing in the living room and I felt like an idiot yelling at my TV.
Yeah.
When I could just hit the button. But it was still kind of cool. And I think that if you had a headset on and you had voice recognition, which is in every piece of software we have nowadays with Alexa, with Google Assistant and Siri, try to program that into the game. I think it'd be really awesome, because while I do love the idea of having a big multiplayer online component with this game, it's got to have a very compelling single player as well, because I'm not an online player. I would play it online, but I'm not mainly, like most of my games, I'm offline. So as you said, that AI has to improve. It has to be better. It has to be more responsive. And with today's technology, I think we can implement a voice recognition software type deal.
So I think the question we need to answer for both of our ideas is, do we want to keep it first person, or do we want like a third person? I think for my game idea, I would like the over the shoulder.
Over shoulder?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit more intense, so you kind of don't see what's behind you in that kind of aspect of it. But for your game, for the idea, kind of like the Brothers in Arms, what would you probably prefer? Would you like to stick it first person?
I think I would.
Okay.
I think I'd rather have Gearbox just stick to what they've been doing for 20 years. They've been making these awesome games. Like when I went back and looked at their full repertoire of games, I'm like, wow. I literally don't give these guys the thought of time that I need to, because these guys are good. And they have a good collection. Of course I remember Brothers in Arms. Of course I remember Half-Life in Borderlands, but it doesn't always come to mind that that's Gearbox.
Yeah,
for some reason, well, because they also worked with Valve for Half-Life, so I think Valve when I think of Half-Life. With Borderlands, I think of 2K, because that's a 2K thing. So it's like, to me, they as a developer kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit, because of their conglomerate's a little bit bigger for the publishers. But no, I would want to keep it first person, because I would want to try and gain that audience in. One, for the people who like, hey, this is the same game. Oh, I played that game, or I heard about that game, or I played Borderlands. They're making this game. I'm going to hop on board with this because it's a Star Wars game.
Now, weirdly enough, I do want options in the game where I know this is probably throw a little people off. Like, I don't know if this is such a good idea. I think part of me wants a mode where it's permadeath, where you are in command of your group. If one person dies, that's it. You continue the story, but one man is gone, and you got to continue on. And I think that should be I think that should be a mode itself, not in the main game, but just like a mode.
Yeah. Well, I think that'd be neat, because say like if you were playing through the game and you lost somebody, but like you leveled up your guys as you went along, and all that progress you made with that dude is gone. Yeah. So then you got to look at at the recruits or whatever, to people coming into your squad. Now he's the new guy and he's going to be weaker.
Yeah, that could work. Like they do with XCOM.
Yeah,
like XCOM kind of did that. Yeah, that can definitely work. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and get to our next game, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll get into the main enchilada of it all, the main Star Wars game. So this one game here, I'm gonna let Brandon talk about this one, because this is the one he brought up.
Yeah. So when you hit me up with suggestions like, hey, well, like, what are some cool Star Wars games? And I just went to my collection, as I always do, on my first hunch. Like, all right, what should I pick next? Should I grab this, grab that? Because I definitely want to make sure that it's a game that I've played. And then while I haven't beaten every game in my collection, I've played all of them. And like at some point, even if it was just to try them out and test it.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent you some pictures, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this game's terrible. Check this one out. And you're like, well, okay, thematically, gameplay-wise, it's different than the other two, so let's maybe go for it. And that's Star Wars Masters of the Teras Kasai. And the thing is that just recently, they've actually name-dropped Teras Kasai in the series, in the actual movies. I think it might have been Rogue One or Han Solo or whatever movie it was. Where like, oh wow, okay, because that's like a fighting style or whatever that's in the Star Wars universe. And this was a fighting game. It was a 3D fighting game because that was all the rage on the PS1. I think the game came out in like 97, 98, somewhere in that ballpark. And it is completely terrible. It doesn't play very well. It's not the worst 3D fighting game I've ever played. That notch goes to the Nintendo 64 game Dual Warriors, or I think it's what they're called, Dual Warriors, Dual Heroes. It's my gosh. Me and my friends sit here and we were laughing so hard playing that game. It was so bad. No, this game isn't that bad, but it could be better. And so that's our task. And thinking about as a genre, the fighting genre is, I don't want to say the word limited because that's not fair. Because there's only a couple of really big hitters now for fighters. Because you have like your plethora of 2D fighters, plethora, and they all kind of, to me, no offense, play kind of the same. Then you have your 3D fighters, which kind of look now that they've dialed in mechanics, look and play kind of the same. So what do? This is the conundrum for this game. I vote for my pick. I'm going to keep it 3D. I'm keeping it.
Okay.
I'm not changing it. Just like with Commando, I'm sticking with the same play style. But that limits me for who I know who could develop this game. So do I pick the Tekken team? Do I pick the Caliber team, or do I pick the Dead or Alive team?
Okay.
So Tekken, because I played the crap out of Tekken when I was a kid and loved it. So that's maybe I should go Soul Calibur, because brain just started turning and I forgot all about this until this moment on the show. They actually had Star Wars characters in their games.
Yes, I believe it was the fourth entry.
Yeah, because you had on the PS3 you had Vader, and Xbox you had Yoda. So maybe they're the right guys to do it. But what I want to know is that you said you had to do a lot of change in this game for yourself.
Yeah.
So what'd you do?
Okay, so I'm with you. I picked Namco. So hands down, I picked Namco. I actually picked the Tekken Squad.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I would actually name the title Star Wars Masters and just leave it at that. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. And actually, when I thought about this, when I was looking at the game character list of the old game, I was thinking about what is the biggest issue. It's so unbalanced. I mean, and there's stuff in there that just didn't make sense to me. Where like when you have a saber, you don't feel like a badass in that game.
No,
you're going against a guy with guns. You got Chewbacca. You got all this stuff. So to me personally, it should be nothing but people with sabers, hands down. No other characters. No Solo. No Chewbacca. Nothing. It should be just Jedis only. And it should be a little bit of Jedis and Sith. And you get the best ones or your favorites on each side. Because let's be honest here, there's a lot of people that can fight with sabers, but the problem is they're going to fight similar in a fighting game. So you have to do something where each one can definitely feel special when they have a saber. Like, you got to have someone that can dual wield. You got to have someone that can use, the same kind of bow stick kind of dual wielding one. You got to have, just a variety of those. And one of the things too is, I think what's missing in this game is environmental powers. And what I mean by that is, in all fighting games, except for 3D mostly, is you're building up a meter. And when you build the meter, then you produce a special power, a special move, like you see in Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, all this fun jazz. That needs to be in here, where when you build up a meter, you can use a Jedi Force power on your enemy, okay? Or you can sacrifice something to bring something environmental to it. So, you can use Jedi power and grab something from the background and throw it at the enemy or something while you're in the middle of like a combo move or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. I do agree with you to keep it 3D all the way. Because, I feel like that you want to have that more intense fighting. So, you want to be able to roll to the side, all that fun jazz.
Yeah, be able to dodge.
Yeah. And I don't know if I want to have the Soul Calibur style where you can ring out. I think it needs to be just straight up, no ringing out. It's just you in this room. But one of the things, too, is I would like to take it where the environmental states change. So, like, if you use a Jedi power at a certain point, you can kick them off and you guys fight on another stage. There's no ring out, but you guys, it keeps the fight moving along,
Sure.
And when I did my lineup of fighters, I was looking at, you can do, for like the Sith, you can do, of course, Darth Vader, Revan, Dark Maul, Jerkai, those couple of picks right there. And then for the Jedis, you got Luke, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Mace Windu, whatever you want from there. But then I was thinking, like, is there anybody else that rock sabers that are not Jedi or that? And I was looking at the and I'm probably gonna butcher this. I think they're called the Praetorian Guards. And have you seen Last Jedi? They're the ones in the old red suit.
Yep.
Those can be contenders in the fight too. So I think like you need to split between Jedi, Sith, and a little bit of a mixed bag. But I wouldn't bring a shooter in. That's just kind of a weak way to get out of the situation. It's a weak thing.
Yeah.
But
that's what I've always thought was weird is that when you have like a shooter and they would get hit with a lightsaber, but they're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Other than taking damage. Yeah.
And I think too, if you want to, I don't know what the rating we want to go with the game, but like, if you could do a finisher, it'd be kind of cool if you can, you can slice them in half, slice an arm off or whatever you can. If you want to do a Mortal Kombat kind of style, I don't care. Or you can just keep it normal because you want the goal is with the saber fights, you want the fights to be intense, but on top of that, you want to feel like every hit matters. And that's the challenging part about this game is, when they clash and you're getting hit, you want to feel like that every hit does matter in those circumstances, right? So that's my biggest challenge about this game is more of how can you make the fights feel really intense, but also bringing in unique powers for each person and how you can work with the world at the same time. And so that's what I have so far for this. Any ideas on your end?
Dude, that is completely awesome. And I'll be honest with you, that's way more than I could come up with.
Okay.
For this. No, I struggled very hard. This was the one that I just showed you a picture of. And it was like, wow, this would be hard. And you're like, yeah, let's do that one. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Because it's like, it's not a very good game to begin with. And to be able, like, you're really going to be relying on the developers to do what they normally do with their own IP, with the Star Wars IP. We've seen the Mortal Kombat do that with DC, with Injustice. So it can be done. Yeah. Which is really neat because it just seems like that team, the more that they learn from doing their next Mortal Kombat, they put that into Injustice and likewise. So it's made their games better. Maybe this could be a Caliber or a Tekken team's second entry or second game where they're like, all right, let's work on just this to get our minds off of Tekken for a while, and truly try to do something with this. Because I do agree that you should probably have a lot more melee-based characters in this. And it would be difficult to try and capture all the different saber fighting techniques because I think they have like 7.
Yeah.
And so that would be neat, but that would be hard to do in it, like just in a straight up. Because what's a fighting game supposed to be? It's not supposed to be a sim. You're supposed to have fast action. It's supposed to be a little arcadey. You're supposed to be bouncing around, getting all tensed up, just trying to win. So
now there is one other thing before we wrap this up. 2 questions. One, should the Jedi fights have quick time events for certain characters to get out of situation? So let's say that let's say, most fighting is when 2 characters hit each other at the same time, you can do like a quick button, whoever does the mount in a certain time win that fight. Or should that person, when they do a super move and they're about to do the final hit, that person has a chance to block that final hit. So let's say it's a 4-hit move, and I hit you with the 3, but the final hit will take a lot from you. Should that other character have a cool quick time event if he does it in time to get out of that situation?
That might be neat and make it a little bit more balanced, especially when you have because when you have all the different Jedis and Sith, it's like who's stronger, who's not strongest. Obviously for certain characters, you're gonna want to make Vader strong as hell because he is. You're gonna want to make Revan pretty strong. You're gonna want to make Mesa pretty darn good swordsman and a pretty heavy fighter.
Yeah,
you're gonna want to make Obi-Wan reserved, more thoughtful. Where he's not the character that you go into trying to heavy everybody. So I think that'd be really neat, a really neat different way to kind of try to balance a game with just sabers.
Yeah, definitely, because I was also the issue too on that was certain characters would be so challenging to put on there that they almost feel like they would be better as boss fights, but I don't know I don't know if they would be players like General Grievous.
Yeah.
He's rocking 4 sabers. How do you balance that?
Right.
Then you have Palpatine. Those are
mostly force powers. Yeah.
Right. So you have to figure that balance out. But I think Namco, like you said, I think they are the best ones to do this because one, they have the most popular 3D fighting game out of anyone.
Yeah.
So I think they can really play that card just right to work on that balance and just pick who they think they can do creative ideas with a fun story behind it. So, yeah. So, okay. So, with that, let's take a break. And we come back, we're going to get into a classic Star Wars game that was out on launch on a console and bring back the memories of it and see what we can do with it. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Jeremy, a.k.a. the in-game boss.
And this is Jerron, a.k.a. the Evil of Aku.
And I want to tell you about a show as part of the In-Game Boss program network called the In-Game Boss Podcast.
It's a podcast about fun topics and questions that challenge the listeners and each other.
And we are on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other listening services.
But don't forget to subscribe to social media, Facebook and Twitter.
So come by and enjoy the show.
Hey guys, this is Brando, and I'm the host of the Game Addicts podcast, a show where I cover the latest news in gaming and take a look back at some of gaming's best consoles, series, and games. With over 3 years of episodes in the back catalog, there's plenty of great episodes to sink your teeth into, so check out GameAddictsPodcast.com or download us on your favorite podcast platform. Into live streams, head over to twitch.tv/GameAddictsPlay for Let's Plays and to chat along with the podcast during the live recording. Still want more? Subscribe to our YouTube channel for your one-stop shop for everything we do. So what are you waiting for? It's time to level up and check out the Game Addicts Podcast.
And we're back. Welcome to the World Gaming Trade Show. I'm Jeremy. This is Brendan. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. The final Star Wars game. The game that came on the 64 at launch in 1996, I think. Is that right? Or 95?
Yep.
Yes.
96.
Yes. It was a game that everybody remembers it. People probably forgot about it, but now bringing it back up, they're like, I remember that game and what happened to that game, and that is Star Wars Shadow of the Empire. That game is crazy at the time. I mean, the graphics were amazing at that time. It was a story that was set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. You got this kind of story about Dash Rendar and how his adventure was going into this. Did he die? Did he fake his death? There's a lot of questions there. But people also remember that this game was hard and it was short at the same time. Yes. And that's why, because it was so hard, there was only 4 chapters. That's it. 4 chapters. And and the story is actually really good. I actually, before we recorded, I did a quick scan of all the comics. I read the synopsis to kind of know what the flow, so I can kind of get the idea of this story. But Brandon, before we start, what is your experience with this classic game, Shadow of the Empire?
I played it on the N64 when I was a kid. The first level, you're flying a snowspeeder on Hoth, defending Echo Base against the Imperial forces. This game puts you in the movie while also being a completely original story. It's like as you said, it kind of takes place in between, but it overlaps a little bit with the very beginning of Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So it's awesome. And of course, that whole section of the game is what kind of inspired Rogue Squadron.
Yes.
Down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But then you play those levels, you're like, wow, this is awesome. And then you go into the base and you can pick third person or first person. And you're running around. Of course, at the time, you had like games like Doom and Wolfenstein that were kind of that first person shooter that kind of was, you could see, was an inspiration for like the inside corridor stuff here, because it reminded me just like Doom. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of Doom, and maybe some Duke Nukem as well.
A little bit of Quake too. A little bit of Quake.
Well, I mean, just like all those games in that time set the bar for what would become, for the first-person shooter genre. And this game was like, as I said, it let you switch and you didn't really get to see your gun like a typical shooter, but you played it and it was just first person. You could run around. As you said, it was hard. It tried to be a platformer when it really wasn't built to be.
Yes.
That's what was hard about it, because the notorious jetpack level.
Take a deep breath for the listeners. We all remember that one.
Jetpack level. Yeah, not fun. Now, of course, and then at the end, if you beat the game on hard mode, he did survive, and you get to race the Millennium Falcon on Tatooine after they save Han.
All right.
Nice little tidbit. However, after playing the game many years later, I read the book that the game was based on, and then of course the comics as well. And this is a really cool story. The book became what would end up being like not one of the first ones, but one of the big books that inspired the rest of the extended universe.
Yeah.
Like the book universe, and this book was a big part of that. And when I think about this game, I think about how awesome it was, how hard it was, how frustrating it was, but how fun it was, because here we are in what was brand new 3D gaming, and we're in the Star Wars universe, and we're not playing as a Jedi. That was so cool to me.
Yeah, it almost makes you wish now you want that movie. It'll probably have to be in animation form, but man, when you read that, I was like, man, why did they not just add this to the main Star Wars saga? The story's really good. It's really, really good. But Brendan, I want to know what your brain was thinking for this game. What were you thinking?
My brain went to a game that came out last year.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to be changing it up a bit. It's going to be first-person shooter-esque, but it's going more story-based, more quest-based. Because the moment I started thinking about it, I'm like, all right, what would I do? I don't want it to be the same. I want to expand it. If anything, I want to take this story and just make it bigger. Mm-hmm. And I thought of Obsidian and what they did with Outer Worlds.
Okay.
Because I instantly thought having the ship, being able to go to a couple different planets. Of course, you're on Hoth, right? Mm-hmm. But then they leave and they go to a couple different places. Maybe you can meet some new characters that are brand new to the story that fit in with the Rebel Alliance, that fit in with the overall plot against Prince Shizor, and they could kind of be companions. So that way you can try to deepen the character of Dash, because Dash, it's a cool character, but let's be honest, he's kind of a bland.
He gets compared as Han Solo a lot.
Yes, he's another smuggler who has a ship that's also a Corellian cruiser, and they argue about which ship is faster.
Yep.
There's your character development. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to see more character development with the main player playing as Dash, and then so that would remove the kind of character creation part of it. But that's the point. You're getting a story told to you, and maybe you could throw some choices in there too to help give player interaction. But that's exactly where I went. And of course, he's not a Jedi, so they had in Outer Worlds they had special powers and abilities that you can do. But I would make that more since he's a rogue type character or a scoundrel. I would definitely make that more grenades, flashbangs, bigger weapons, things that he can do to kind of put in his back pocket, to trip mines. And then, of course, that would be cool then to have other characters come in that maybe there is a Force-sensitive character that is brand new to the story. Because we're only getting Luke, and he's supposed to be the only one for, the good side. And maybe there's another one that he's kind of hiding a little bit. And maybe gets revealed that he, hey, the dude's actually got a lightsaber. Who are you? And it's like, oh, he's the son of a Jedi or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of things that you can do creatively with the kind of story and the kind of template that they set up with the Outer Worlds that would fit perfectly into this one, because you're just getting so much expansiveness with this. And I feel like for a game that's set in the Star Wars universe, that can only aid. Yeah, giving Star Wars fans more is what they want.
Yeah, so knowing a Sibian that has done a Star Wars game, and of course Outer Worlds and even Fallout, all that stuff. My question for you is, do you want Dash to have allies beside him? So, for instance, he had a robot friend named Lebo that hung out with him. Yeah, but like, do you want to say, like in the story, like Luke, Lando, Han Solo? Like, do you want those people to be kind of more of a side help, or they're just kind of guests coming through, but maybe you want another third person, or maybe just him and Lebo? What do you want that, or you think he just goes solo? What is your thoughts on that?
And that's what I was gonna kind of saying about maybe bringing in some new characters that are like new to the story, because that story has now been X'd out, erased by the new Disney AU or whatever they're calling it, or the actual new canon. That story, for whatever reason, is no longer canon. So if they're going to reintroduce it, I feel like they should have the creative freedom to be like, well, we have the main story, so let's play with it. Let's see if we can add some new characters. Maybe how cool would it be to have a Mandalorian with you? How cool would it be, especially with the popularity of the TV show and a Boba Fett? How cool would that be? Especially since there's actually a boss fight with Boba Fett in the game.
Yep.
There's a boss fight with IG-88 in the game. So maybe Lebo's the droid that kind of hangs out on the ship. Maybe you have another battle droid that kind of goes out with you too. You can rank these guys up and level them up, and just like you can in like Outer Worlds or in Mass Effect, you can pull up a little like a quick button, and they shoot a little special power that you can level up for them out there.
Do you have choice base? Like, do you still get choices that you want in that game?
I would say so, because as you said, did he live or did he fake his death? I think that this is right before that.
Okay.
As I said, you don't have to make it 100% like the original game. Have the skeleton of the story there, but then expand it. Do some cool creative liberties with it. Just like we've seen with some other remakes that have come out recently. It's going to be enough of the original game to make the new player go, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." But maybe I didn't expect this. This is cool. This is different.
Okay. So mine, of course, went totally a different way. And the setup I want is actually start the story at the end, and then we go back to the beginning. I want to start it out where you question Dash is on his, he thinks he's going to die. Towards in the book, spoiler, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but there's a ship that blew up, and in slow motion, you're going to see Dash look at it, and right there it's going to freeze, and it's going to question you, does he live or die? Then we start out at the very beginning, because based on with my research, he has done a lot of stuff way before he visited Hoth. Like, he had some adventures with Han Solo.
Yeah.
All this stuff. So I want to start where you're going this giant adventure with him through all this stuff, leaving Shadow of the Empire the last part of the game, like the final of the game. Right where, the Hoth happens, and then he gets that mission of going to find Han Solo, followed by meeting Luke, going to try to go save Leia, before,
So you really get like a huge backstory to him.
Yeah.
And more development that way. That's neat.
Yeah, and that way, too, you can help level him up, with a good skill tree, better grenades, better gadgets. I wanted him and Lebo, but you can also have a third person if you want to, but I wanted more of Lebo being the more kind of a sidekick to him. Like, if he for instance, if he's in a battle. By the way, I wanted the third-person shooter game. Okay. And I want it where, for instance, while you're in battle, Lebo would be, on the side, maybe throw him a gun or ammo if he runs out or something like that. Lebo's more of a helping hand, but he also fights too. But you never get control of him. He's just kind of like, it's almost like The Last of Us, where Lebo just thinks on his own, and like if you're in trouble, he is gonna come and save you. Like he's that robot, and I think robots should be knowing that they're like 12 steps ahead of me, to be honest with you. And I want it where like I said, you're seeing all these different missions hopping around the galaxy, so you're learning more about his background, how he knows certain characters, his relationship with Han Solo, the ship, all this stuff. Where, you know, you're seeing, the reason I want Han Solo in this is to get that joke across, like, they act the same, but Dash is trying so hard to be better than him, because that's what the book kind of intended, like, he wants to be better than Han Solo, so I want to see that, by him doing all these crazy missions, like, I'm going to get my name out there, and that includes, you know, all the stuff you saw in the game, like the bike race, all this different stuff, so it's basically getting you prepared to be ready for the Shadow of the Empire, the last arc of this game. So when I thought about the developers, the easiest pick out of all of this would honestly be Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog can do this. Because, like, you know, I always thought if they can make a Han Solo game, Naughty Dog would do it. Like, you know, he is Nathan Drake, the star, you know, in that style.
Yeah. And
so is Dash. Dash is that. I wanted Naughty Dog, and Naughty Dog could do this. They're the perfect pick for this. But I want to pick a group because they are so awesome at making spectacles and making scenes so amazing, and basically on their graphics. You know them from Quantum Break, Control, Alan Wake, and Max Payne, and that's Remedy. Because Remedy, I play Quantum Break and I haven't got a chance to play Control, but based on the gameplay, they know how to make an action scene with the game, and that's what I want. I want all the action scenes, the shootout, the bike, the feat, just a spectacle Hollywood film. And him, like, you know, he's trying to be more of a show off. Like when he throws the grenades, they blow up at the awesome way, all this stuff. Everything's kind of going slow motion at the right time. You know, all this cool idea. And I think Remedy hasn't had the chance. They're very selective. And when they come out with a game, it's like one every 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So them taking a crack at it would be pretty unique, because I don't know if I really want the aerial fighting where he fights in space and stuff. I don't know that, or if I just want that to be a cutscene. But I can definitely see more of just the spectacle and just the graphic mindset of what their vision of when they lay down the pieces that is Shadow of the Empire. That's what I have for this game.
That would work, dude. That would be amazing. Like I would buy that day one. Absolutely. What I would really love in either one of our ideas is to get a chance to explore the morality of Dash Rendar.
Yes.
Because that's something that with Han comes across as very coarse, like he's a gray character. Like maybe he does some things that maybe aren't really good things. But of course, they always show Han to be a good person at heart, right? Mm-hmm. He's always there for his friends. He's always there for people who care about him. I would love to explore that with Dash to get the comparison.
Yes.
You know, is part of the reason why he's not as good as Han Solo is because maybe he's not as good a person as Han Solo. Mm-hmm. You know, or maybe that's something that we can play a part into helping him, you know, make choices. You know, maybe you have the choice of not being a, you know, like in my style, maybe you make a choice to not be as good a person. That's where that, you know, light side, dark side, or Renegade Paragon deal kind of come in, where it's like, you know, at the end of the game, you're kind of judged. You know, it's like, are you a good a person as these other people in this alliance? And he's like, no, he was not.
Yeah,
but he sacrificed his life to destroy the Skyhook. So there we are.
And I think it'd be kind of cool if they do a twist based on your choices that he could survive or die from it.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can depend, and it gives you that replayability to try again and see what the choices that you made. It almost feels like you can do like Mass Effect 2 at the last mission, where if you got everything right, everybody could live. But if you do all the wrong things, somebody not make it out. But the point of it, like Mass Effect 2, is you feel when you made a bad decision, you feel, and that's what I want. I want Dash to make me feel that like the decision I made was the right decision, even though I lost somebody. You know, that's what I really want. So
absolutely, that impact. Yeah.
And there's potential there. But for our listeners, who do you think should make Shadow of the Empire? Who do you think should make Star Wars Master? I'm not going to say that last part. Who do you think should make Republic Commando? Please, leave a comment down below down below of my post that I put on Facebook and Twitter, because this show and his show, of course, is part of the In-Game Box program, a network of gaming other variety shows, and part of Game Addict Podcast. So definitely check out all our shows. So for me, remember, we are on Facebook and Twitter as In-Game Box program. Just make sure you type in @program in capital P, capital E for Twitter. But remember, my show and his show are on Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Spotify, you name it, we are there. If we're not, we're going to make sure we get there. All right? Always remember that. Brendan, anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, guys, if you want to reach out to me on Game Addicts, you can do that on Twitter and Facebook at Game Addicts Play. And then, of course, we're also on Instagram, same thing. And GameAddictsPodcast.com. You can go over there. We actually have the whole page. And just like you said, we're available everywhere, and including on YouTube, where I post some gameplay stuff as well as the video version of the podcast. So, I think that's going to wrap us up here as we go into the next episode.
Yes, and I hope you guys are prepared, because remember, our back catalog has a lot of great content. So definitely go check out all the other games that we have on there. We mentioned them at the very beginning. But I want to thank y'all so much for sitting in. And with that, we will catch you on our next episode.